think. You think that
Yes.
it's just a frozen continent, but there's life everywhere. There's birds, there's whales breaching, there's seals laying on ice floes, and millions of penguins, and it just is, and the ice just feels alive, and it's very colorful. There's so many different shades of blue that
I didn't think I'd ever see that many shades of blue.
Yeah, you think it was going to be just gray and depressing, but it was really bright and vibrant.
Yeah. We've been cleared for takeoff.
Welcome to Just Travel Podcast. Here is your host, Robert Smith.
Welcome to episode 5 of the Just Travel Podcast. Today I'm joined by Dave and Deb of theplanetd.com. We cover the beautiful colors of Antarctica, Greenland, treks from Cairo to Cape Town, and many more.
So today we have two very special guests, Dave and Deb from the planetd.com. They're award-winning travel bloggers. Actually, Forbes magazine named them one of the top 10 travel influencers in the world. Dave and Deb have been featured on shows like The Today Show, CNN, National Geographic. Dave and Deb, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having us. Great to be here.
So let's start at the beginning of this journey for you to arrive at these awards and top influencers. Tell us a little about yourselves.
Well, we started our travel blog in 2008 by cycling from Cairo to Cape Town. So we wanted to do something epic to stand out from the rest of the travelers out there, and thought that might be a good way to make it happen. So we joined the world's longest cycling race and spent 4 months in 2008 cycling the continent of Africa. And during that time, we ended up getting a lot of publicity. We wrote articles for the Toronto Star, which is a national newspaper here in Canada. And we did a lot of TV appearances. And then after that, it was great timing, right? Or starting that early. I'll let you join.
Yeah, definitely. It was great starting that early because there weren't a whole ton of people doing it at that point. That's an advantage and a disadvantage in that, nowadays you have so many people doing it. There's lots of people to learn off of. Whereas when we started, it was sort of just, working it out as we went along, sort of trial and error. That's the way we went about it. But we did have a plan. We started out, we said, in order to make this a success, what we want to do is we'll quit our jobs, we'll go out on the road, and we'll be on the road full time for 5 years. So that was the plan. In order to build up an audience and, travel to all these different places and really just build up our expertise.
Yeah, so that's how it all began, one of the early bloggers, and then it just grew naturally from there.
So how often do you normally travel?
When we first started traveling, we came back from Africa in the middle of 2008 and learned about the art of blogging and the business of blogging. And then we started traveling full-time in 2009, and we did that nonstop till 2007. So it was 8 years.
2017.
I mean, 2017. 2009. We went back in time. Yeah, we went to 2017. So it was what is that? 2009. 8 years. 8 years almost of full-time travel where we were just on the road with no home. We were location independent.
Yep.
Became the nice euphemism rather than homelessness. So that really helped us, I think, in the early days because we were traveling so often into so many different places. People really started paying attention to us.
Well, I mean, what's that like? Not really having a permanent location.
For us then, it was very liberating. Being able to take everything you own and pare it down to literally a small storage area and then go out and live on the road like that was something that was it was incredible. It was incredibly freeing. Felt like, you leave all your ties at home. You're building a business. We're lucky we're married. So I'm traveling with my significant other, my wife. So everything was just exactly the way we wanted it. So it was, really in the beginning, it was just like a kind of bliss in the sense that we were doing everything we wanted to do. I was in the film business beforehand into lighting and photography, which I did. So being out there and being able to photograph all these amazing places was just, I loved it.
So I read where Deb is afraid of water. and had no technical skills.
Yeah.
I find it a little funny since you're a travel blogger.
Oh, and we do so many water adventures. That's the hilarious thing that I always laugh. Like if you do, like, and I think that's what people resonated with us, especially early on. We always took on adventures and talked about our fears and how we overcame our fears, so people could relate to us. We weren't just these crazy Uber athletes that could already whitewater kayak or already climb mountains. So yeah, as I'm a lot less afraid now, but when I first started, I really was terrified of going kayaking in open water, or I was scared of canoeing in rapids or anything like that.
But I think that relatability and sort of that really fit with our motto, and that adventure is for everyone, and it's all about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to learn a little bit more about yourself. That sort of became our mantra or our motto, because that's exactly how we were living our lives, and we found that really enriched every moment of our life. So we wanted to share that with our audience, and I think that's what allowed us to really have maybe a little bit more unique take on traveling at the time than other people.
And one thing I wanted to say too is that whenever I did take on a new challenge, I'd realize it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. I always built things up in my head, and then I went and did it, and that was a lot of fun. So I would make sure I relay that. So, even now though, if I haven't been snorkeling for a while, I jump in the water for the first time in a few months, and I'm nervous every time, but then I remember it gets fun and I get over it again. So just keep on pushing yourself and keep reminding you that the reward is bigger than not doing it.
Yeah, it always seems like you build things up, like it's going to be really bad, but it really is not that bad after all.
Yeah, exactly. If you can just take that first step to give it a try. So we always just tell people, start small. Don't go
crazy. Yeah.
Ice diving for your first time scuba diving or something like that. Go and take a little, discovery dive for your first one and work your way up, and then eventually doing everything. Yeah.
So what surprise benefits have you received from travel blogging?
Well, the biggest surprise for us was actually being able to make a living out of it. Because when we first started, we did not know how. Like Dave said, it was easy. It's a little bit easier now because people have guidelines and understand blogging more. Mind you, it's also harder because there's a lot more competition. But in the early days, all we knew was that we wanted to travel, and we were hoping one day to make a living out of writing and photography. And then when that actually started happening, when we got our first contract as brand ambassadors, we were completely blown away that this could actually be a living. And then every year to build on that and have it sustainable has been a surprise, and we're always grateful for where we are.
And I also think on another side of things is that I've always, the surprise benefit is being able to be really creative. And in running our own business, we had never really done that before, and being in control of the creativity, and then actually getting all that back from the partners that we worked with, and being able to develop different programs and trips that were very customized is so much different than from, say, maybe the traditional model of doing a press trip and writing about it and then publishing it elsewhere. So us sort of being able to have an input into what we do, as well as getting the feedback from the destinations that we work with, has been a super surprise benefit, because it's allowed us to have more custom trips and probably what I'd say more interesting trips than just going on something where you're with a bunch of other press.
So you there is some downs to this. Can you explain a little of those?
Yeah. Like it's a fun job, but it is a lot of work. Like I think a lot of people look on the outside and go, oh, they just get to go and do YouTube and Instagram all day, and they get to just write about whatever they feel like. But it is a lot of work, a lot of marketing. We're up when we are working, we're up first thing in the morning for sunrise to get those extraordinary photographs, and we're out until sunset. And while we're having these great adventures, we're taking notes and taking photographs and really planning it out. So we never really have a vacation, a proper vacation when we're working and blogging, but we do get, the upside is every time we travel, we get these amazing experiences. So it's finding a balance. I find also when you love something, you end up working too much. You don't realize, like, it sounds ridiculous, but you'll go a 12-hour day and not think about it. And then you'll just go on from one project to another and keep on working. And it sounds exciting, but, you lose track of family and friends. You miss birthdays, and you end up being very isolated as a travel blogger. So you really have to work hard on keeping the balance of staying connected with your friends and making sure that you come home and see your family, and not just becoming so micro-focused on yourself, which is easy to do. It's easy just to become all enthralled about yourself when you're blogging, because it is an isolating experience, because you're home alone. You're working from the road, and so you have to make sure that you reach out to your peers.
And and I do think also that it can be very exhausting just doing that much travel. So that's something I never really thought of in the beginning, and that, when we decided to do this, I thought, 5 years of, full-time travel, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. But truthfully, near the last year, it was quite exhausting. Just like flying all over the place, and I think if you talk to anybody who has been around for a while or was like full time on the road for probably more than 4 or 5 years, we've all sort of got that kind of travel fatigue in a way, in that, flying back and forth in different time zones all over the place and not really having necessarily a rhyme or reason of where you're flying to. It's not like you're planning out a trip and you're going from here to here to here to here, and the time zones are logical. We were flying all over the place. So it did get quite exhausting, and that's sort of hard to portray to people, because if you're looking at travel blogging as something that is has a certain glamour to it, and that you want to do that for your living, you don't necessarily think that travel can become exhausting, but it can.
The jet lag is real.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It took us a couple of years to realize how tough jet lag was on us. There was a time about 2 years into traveling where we were fighting like crazy. Like we'd get to a destination and we'd just be miserable and angry. And then we realized we were doing contracts back to back where we'd be in a destination for like anywhere from 5 to 7 days and fly on to the next job. And then we realized we've been in perpetual jet lag for about a year. So no wonder we never had a chance to relax and get into the rhythm of things. And then we just went, okay, now we know we're jet lagged. Don't take anything I say seriously.
Yeah. I'm
just jet lagged and angry right now.
We're a lot more cautious about that now.
Yes.
And I've slowed the travel schedule down just to, it's better for business, it's better for sanity, and it's better for the relationship.
Yeah, it seems like you get used to some of it. I did the first time I flew to Japan from Toronto, actually, all the way to Tokyo. Was that 13, 14 hours?
It's a long one,
When I first got to Tokyo, I wasn't even done with my travel at the time to get to my final destination. I realized that jet lag was really affecting my mood. And I guess really I got used to it after a while, because now if you fly to Europe from East Coast, it's not no big deal.
Yeah, and I think your body does get used to it, but I think also psychologically you get used to dealing with it. It's like when you're aware of it, then you're like, okay, I know what it is. I'm good with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So with this environment that we're under right now, what have you been doing?
Actually, it feels like we've been busier than ever. And we always joke, because we've always been either really traveling really hard, or when we're home working with our heads down at the computer. So it made us rethink. We're like, we really need to rethink our life decisions, because we're way too good at self-isolation. We have our heads down and we're working. It's like life has not changed.
Why are we good at that?
Yeah, it's just that we don't have a trip coming our way. So we've just had our heads down working for a month and a half.
How do you feel about the travel industry will progress once we get out of the lockdown and the quarantine?
I think it's going to be a slow grind, I think, especially for international travel. I see domestic travel probably being obviously the most popular, people doing more day trips around where they live, or maybe a weekend trip and stuff like that, camping, things that allow you to isolate away from people a little bit more. But I think getting on a plane and flying somewhere, say, like you were saying, for Tokyo for 14 hours, I think, those kind of things for people doing it for pleasure are probably going to be pretty limited, I would think, for a while, until there's a vaccine or whatever happens, however they come up with a better way to deal with it. Once that starts to happen, then I think people will get back to traveling, but I think that it'll be slow. It'll be progressional. It won't be the way that basically it disappeared, so suddenly it'll be a pretty slow ramp up, I think.
So you guys have a film industry background and have produced travel guides and videos. What are some tips you can give listeners to record better video, take better pictures?
Well, when it comes to video, it's really important to have clear sound. People will forgive a little bit of bumpy camera work, but if the sound is bad and they can't hear it, or if it's windy, people get very turned off. So invest in a microphone. If you have a shotgun mic on your camera, or a lav mic is even better. And invest in music. We use Epidemic Sound so that you can get your copyright-free music and have a nice soundtrack. So I'm all about sound, but of course, beautiful images are great. Our travel videos are more about the story of it. We love giving people all the things you can do. We're not really a vlog that just sits and talks to the camera. We're very much the old school best of
Lonely
places.
Planet kind of.
Yeah, that was our inspiration when we first started, and I love putting those together with Dave's gorgeous imagery of drone shots and things like that. So, and then you have photography tips.
Yeah, well, for photography, I don't necessarily that if you're at home now, I would say practice. Knowing your camera is the best trick I can tell anybody to know. To be prepared for any situation, know how your camera works. Now's a perfect time to get outside, test out different modes, test out how things work with different apertures and achieve different feels. There's lots of tutorials online to go out there and learn a little bit about your camera. If you do, but once you can travel again, my best advice is get up early and go to bed late. The best light happens, an hour before sunrise and an hour after sunset. Those are the best times to shoot. So make sure you give yourself time and plan your photography around that. I think that's a big key. A lot of people don't really think about that. There's a lot of planning that goes into photographs, but timing, lighting, angles, all those things are preconceived. I think about them. I scout them before we go out and shoot them. So think about throwing a little planning into your travel photos and you'll see a huge difference.
So is that what we call the golden hour?
Yeah, golden hour. Yeah, so golden hour is the best time to shoot. Like
magic hour, blue hour.
Magic hour, blue hour, whatever you want. Whatever moniker you want to put on it. Definitely long shadows, high contrast is great for landscapes and cityscapes alike.
So
when Dave said planning, I want to mention that for video too, is have an idea of what your story is going to be before you start shooting your video, so that you can follow your ideas and you can write it down and lists, storyboards, however you want, and get a lot of cutaways so that you have something to cut to for transitions. Like if we're
a lot of B-roll.
B-roll. If we're hiking in a forest, we make sure we get down and get some feet walking. If we're splashing through a mud puddle, get the feet doing that. Cut to a tree branch blowing in the wind, just for transitions to cut to the next scene. So that can help a lot to move the story along.
Yeah, I didn't realize what they meant by B-roll until the other day, and I don't have much of that to cut.
My early videos didn't have a lot either.
No.
And as I've gone on, I've gone back to shoot some, look at some early video while I'm trying to just make some best of videos. And I'm like, wow, I did not have much B-roll then. And no wonder I didn't shoot videos too much in the early days.
I see why some videos are better than others because of that.
Right.
I'm trying to put together a video we went last December, went on the Christmas markets in Prague, Germany, Austria. Yeah. We did part of the time was on a river cruise. It was an awesome time, and I recorded, but I really don't have much audio. So I'm going to have to add some music with it and maybe a voiceover.
Voiceover is a great way to move things along.
Definitely.
When you watch a lot of Rick Steves and things like that, there's a lot of voiceovers. So
That's true.
That can tell the story where you miss it as well, too.
So what equipment do you guys use?
We shoot Sony. So I moved to Sony in 2015. I shot Canon for a very, very long time, but my back couldn't take it anymore. The weight was a bit of a problem, and I was waiting for mirrorless to sort of catch up to the technology. So I did make the full switch in 2015 to Sony. So I use a Sony A7R3 and an A7R2, as well as a bunch of different ranges of lenses. But I have, I've been now since 2015. Wow. I didn't realize it was that long that I've been using Sony. But yeah, they're definitely my go-to brand. They're on, I think anyway, on the forefront of what's happening in mirrorless and keeping technology moving along. They've really been at the front of that, and they put out a great product. So
yeah, and video is Sony system as well. We use an RX100 and an A7S2. We use a Rode lav mic, and I also use GoPro. I love using GoPro for a lot of our adventures, and it has great stability. And believe it or not, a lot of my iPhone now is a lot. I find the iPhone really easy for the vlogging part of it, where I'm doing stuff.
More of the new iPhone, like 11 or?
Yeah, iPhone 11. Yeah, so iPhone 11s. Whatever.
No, so we both have the iPhone 11. She has the iPhone 11. I have the iPhone 11 Pro,
okay.
And they are definitely like the stability.
Once
really,
again, stability for video.
Yeah.
I find that better than I used to use a gimbal. I used to use an Osmo. I switched all kinds of things for those Steadicam shots. Nothing beats the iPhone and the GoPro. Both of them do great. GoPro for the really wide angle or adventure, and iPhone for the rest.
For video, we're definitely using like the Sony cameras less, and going more for the convenience of the GoPro combined with the iPhone, and then we also have a drone. So between those three things, and a good mic, you can really put together some great videos.
I find that now that I'm using my iPhone more, I'm getting more footage, because I used to just kind of be like, is it worth getting out the heavy camera? I feel like now I'm like, I'll be very quick. I'll be like, oh, this is a great little moment to capture that I didn't even think of doing.
Yeah, you can get a lot of nice pictures, video with iPhones. I've actually taken some of my pictures and blown them up, and I don't think anybody realizes that they're iPhone pictures.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It's
also
really
we use what's the app we use for the time lapse on the iPhone? I can't think of it. I have to use my iPhone 10 still because it doesn't work. But anyway, Hyperlapse. That's what I'm saying. You can get the great Hyperlapse in a few minutes if you have a short time. Say you're on a quick tour or something like that, and you only have a couple minutes to get something to fake a time lapse. I'll use the Hyperlapse app a lot on my iPhone 10. Still, it's not compatible with the 11. It's very shaky. But that's one of my favorite little apps. We're getting another little move along for clouds or anything like that, or traffic. We have a great New York footage last time we were there that we shot on this side of the road.
No, it works out great.
What drone do you use?
We use the Mavic Pro 2. So it's we've used that now. Well, since it came out, it's just been with the new camera and everything on it. It was such a massive upgrade to the Mavic Pro that we used before. So, but we've been using drones since like the Phantom came out. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of technology change and all that kind of stuff, and just to have it there and
have something small for travel as well. Like it can just fit. I have a little messenger bag I use for camera, and that can just fit right in my messenger bag, and I can carry all the equipment rather than a big drone backpack. So.
And I think it becomes more about convenience nowadays, like it's the best camera is the one you have with you. And, if you can get that drone up fast or get that phone out fast, you can capture a lot more moments than, some of the planned shots, so you do your planned shots and then you have these for more spontaneous moments, certainly adds to move the story along.
That's a good point.
So everyone hits the, top spots, Eiffel Tower, Coliseum, etc.
Yeah.
What are some interesting places? What are some interesting places you have visited that are not in the main tourist spots?
Ooh, so many.
Yeah.
Let me show. An idea.
Yeah, I would say Kyrgyzstan.
Okay.
Is a place that not a lot of people go to, and heading into the Altai Mountains there and doing a horse trek, which we did, which is pretty off the beaten path. And not many people think of Kyrgyzstan as a destination, as a tourist destination. But it's fantastic, especially for off the beaten path stuff that not a lot of people have done.
Yeah, I think all of the stands. When you were asking, I was thinking of there's a big tribute to Genghis Khan in Kazakhstan. In Mongolia. In Mongolia, we went. I'm still in the stands. It's right beside it. Anyway, in Mongolia, they had a big, huge. We were just driving along this desert highway, and then we drive up, and there's this huge, massive statue of Genghis Khan on a horse in the middle of nowhere. And we're like, that's an odd one, that's for sure. But one of the things I was just thinking still of that area. But one of the places I would recommend is the world's most active calving glacier in Greenland.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to Ilulissat, it's pretty amazing. It's very remote, and you can only get there by ship. And you walk out to these massive icebergs, and this glacier is just pounding constantly shifting into the ocean.
Wow.
So that was a pretty wild place, and most memorable, and probably the most photogenic.
Definitely, and combine that with the culture up there is really, you know, what I would consider more of like an all-round travel experience, and that you don't just have to go for the incredible nature that's up there, but the culture is also incredibly interesting.
Well, they just kind of live on the coast, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's all very it's all very small little villages. There's only one town that is what you would consider, I suppose, large, which would be Nuuk.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them are all just small villages scattered around
There's no roads
no inland roads.
Yeah, so you have to fly or take a ship to each village. There's no connecting roads in Greenland, so it's a pretty neat place. Yeah, I think that's a unique one.
So what makes travel interesting and enjoyable to you?
It's definitely for us adding the adventure. I think that was the first thing that inspired us. It was when we first went in 2000 to Thailand for the first time. And up until then, we had done like all-inclusive vacations, which we still love. Don't get me wrong. Once in a while, we'll do those. But when we went to Thailand and stepped out of our comfort zone, and that's when we first went sea kayaking, and that's when we first went hiking in the jungle, and that we learned how to rock climb there. That's when we went, wow, every time we leave the country, we do something we've never tried before. And that kind of became the thing we did. Is with every trip after Thailand, we went and did some adventure we'd never done before. So trying new adventures are always our thing.
Yeah, but there has to be something, like I want something there that's going to be unique and different in that, whether, like Deb said, whether it be something to do with adventure, or whether it be something culturally or something like that is going to either pique my interest outside of what I might normally enjoy out of a destination, or push me out of my comfort zone a little bit.
So, being you're from Canada, I was thinking about North America, and what are your top 3 spots or places you like in North America?
Oh, top 3 places I like in North America. Okay. I would say Alaska.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing to go just the landscape of Alaska is incredible. You pick the next one.
I would say, I picked the next one. I would say I'll have to give a shout out to Canada, and I will say Nova Scotia, the East Coast. East coast of Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Labrador, like that whole area is like its own little microcosm of culture unto itself, and very unique to the rest of Canada. Yeah,
there's fishing villages, world's highest tides. There's, the East Coast hospitality that feels a lot like Ireland and Scotland. That's pretty awesome. And I was going to say the next is the Yukon.
Yes.
You think the Yukon or Alberta? It's kind of like a toss-up.
Alberta has a little bit more to do, like more mainstream stuff, I suppose.
Okay.
The Yukon's pretty tough to get to and explore.
I think, if you're going to go in Alberta, then I'll say Alberta. The Rocky Mountains and Banff and Lake Louise is just the most spectacular place.
There's a national park.
Yeah.
National
Banff
Park there.
National Park and Jasper National Park, and the highway, the Glacier Parkway between the two is just the most beautiful drive in North America. I think it just goes through the Rocky Mountains there's glaciers all along the route and waterfalls and lakes.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, is the Yukon more closer to what Alaska is like?
Yes, it borders Alaska.
Yeah,
I think it's fresh in my mind because I was just writing a road trip post. I was thinking, like,
the Dempster Highway.
The Dempster Highway is pretty awesome for a road trip. And Dawson City is this old gold rush town, and 24 hours of sunlight in the middle of summer. It's a crazy place to go to.
Town. Still.
It feels like the Old West.
Yeah, I was in Fairbanks a couple summers ago for June, the whole month of June.
Yes, that Midnight Sun is pretty.
Yeah, they have festivals for it, Midnight Sun festivals. They have a minor league team there that plays. It's So,
Oh, they do a midnight ball game or something.
yeah, they start like at 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they're in like 10 o'clock in the morning. No natural light.
Yeah, and don't you find you're never tired? Like, I don't know, we just found that it'd be 3 a.m. and we're like, oh my gosh, it's 3 a.m. And we're like, we have to get up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'd be up at 6 a.m. wide awake. We're just feeling wired. It was
the sun sort of sets, but the twilight kind of go into each other.
Exactly. You don't really notice.
No, exactly. You don't get into darkness. That's for sure.
And I did also drive up the Dalton Road, the Hall Road.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now at the time, and maybe still now, there was hardly any truckers on it because the oil weren't doing much. But it's mostly dirt road.
Yeah, that's a great adventure. That's
it
I think
is,
what we love.
definitely.
We love the places that are more remote and more mountainous and.
Well, I sort of find myself looking for that a little bit more now in the last couple of years, and that, you get, I still love Rome. I still love Paris.
Yeah,
I still
like
love
you said,
those cities.
I love going to the big places like the Colosseum and the Eiffel Tower.
But I still want that sense of adventure, of discovering something that, I have never done before. I have never even thought of doing before. So each destination is, I think, has its own allure for its own different reasons.
So how about the top place? You named some places outside of U.S. earlier, but what are those your top places, or are there some other places that are top three?
For me, my top place always, I just really love East Africa. I really love the vibe of Kenya and Tanzania. I love everything that you can do there. And then, in Tanzania, you can climb a mountain and then be on safari, and then the next day be relaxing in Zanzibar. So, and I just love the culture of it. I love that. And I know Dave has his same place. Like, I love East Africa, and you really
and me it's definitely Antarctica. For me, that's again another pretty it's a pretty very remote place, but it is sort of like the last frontier where you're out there and animals are coming up to you. They're not afraid of you. They've never been hunted. It's really this place that has its own allure, and sort of being to a place where people can't live, is pretty cool. Yeah. It's everywhere else people could live in the world, but nobody lives in Antarctica. So to go there and explore that kind of brutal climate, but amazing wildlife, it's unlike any other place in the world.
It's more alive than you think. You think that it's just a frozen continent, but there's life everywhere. There's birds, there's whales breaching, there's seals laying on ice floes, and millions of penguins, and it just is, and the ice just feels alive, and it's very colorful. There's so many different shades of blue that
I didn't think I'd ever see that many shades.
Yeah, you think
of
it was going to be just gray and depressing, but it was really bright and vibrant.
Yeah.
So you recently wrote a blog on travel scams around the world. Can you please describe some of those?
Oh, yeah, we've had our fair share.
We've had our fair share of scams. We've definitely gotten scammed with money in Myanmar. I
don't think that one's on there. I don't. Well, that's okay though, because that's a good scam though.
I think that's a good money scam.
But I wasn't sure if they trade on the black market there anymore, so that's why it's not in our scam. But we did get scammed in Myanmar years and years ago when we went back, when you could travel a country for about a month on $500.
Yeah,
and that's what we had in our pocket, $500 worth of money. That was it, $500 cash, and we were planning on spending a month in Myanmar, and we got scammed out of 250 of it.
Wow.
So we had to cut that time in half, because at the time they didn't have ATMs. This was 2003. So
it was quite a long time ago, but I'm sure those scams still happen, for sure.
Right, but now people can go to ATMs and you can use their credit card. But the one that comes to mind always is the fake official scam. Because that is everywhere in every country.
Yep.
We've been in India where people have come on the bus and asked us for money because they said we were in the wrong spot. You get a lot of people stop you on the street to see your paperwork, and you want to make sure that you don't hand anybody your passport. If they really, they'll say, I need your passport, and then they tell you to give them, pay me some money to get it back. So if anybody ever comes up to you and says, let me see your passport, just make sure that you go to say, okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll go to the police station and then I'll let you see my passport. You know, you just don't want to ever hand over any documents to fake officials.
Lots of scams on buses. You know, we've taken our fair share of buses around the world. Lots of like the distraction or the swarm scam where, you know, people come in and start talking to you and you don't realize what's going on, where another guy, you know, stole our camera in Africa, you know, by the whole distraction thing that was going on. So being more aware about what you have and where things are. I know I am much more aware on a bus or a train or any sort of public transportation of where my stuff is, because it is so easy, you know, to basically just lose money, lose valuables, anything like that by having more and more people come in, either swarm around you, confusion, all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say one is a great thing to watch out for. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Like there's a lot of taxi and tuk-tuk scams in Southeast Asia, especially, where you know it's about, say in Thailand, 100 baht to go somewhere, but then a tuk-tuk will say to you, oh, I'll take you for 10. The minute that's 1/10 of the price, you know that they're going to take you on a wild goose chase to, you know,
all their
jewelry
friends'
shops
places,
or carpet shops or tea houses where they get some money back. We have a huge roundup of them on there of all the scams we've had around the world, and a lot of it, you know, after the fact, you go, it was so obvious, but then you know, it's easy to fall for them. So I say when it comes to travel scams, just look things up before you travel and see what the common scams are in the destination, so that you're aware that, hey, I'm about to get scammed right now. Like now, just even buying dates in Marrakesh. I remember we were taking dates to bring to a family, a local family. And we picked out these dates, and like a guy was like, we're like, okay, we'll take these, and they look good, and we tasted them, and then he went around back and gave us a whole bunch of garbage dates in a box that we never looked at again until we presented it to the family that we brought to, and it was so embarrassing. They would have known probably that we got scammed. They were like, yeah, tourists get scammed. Just things to be aware of.
I know you need to be aware of the ATMs are also when use your credit card.
Yes, whenever we go into a bank, we don't go to just, we always make sure we go to a bank ATM.
Right.
If you can, you know, try either when you land at the airport in arrivals, we'll go to an ATM and try and get our money out, or go to an actual bank. You know, a lot of those ones that are in the bars or something like that, they can put scanners on them. They can skim them. So you just want to be really aware of that for sure.
Well, also, the way they convert the money, you'd rather have them don't convert it for you. Just let your credit card or your bank convert your
Definitely.
currency.
We get that all the time. Like we were just in Mexico just before the coronavirus lockdown.
Yeah.
And first of all, we're Canadians. So when they say, do you want it in US dollars? We were like, no. But, you don't want, but if they'll say to you, even for an American, if they said, do you want the money in US dollars? It's like, no, I'll take the pesos because they're all.
Your bank will give you a better exchange rate.
They're going to give you a better exchange rate than the hotel charging you in US dollars. So, always take the local currency.
So since you've been traveling for, 20 years or so?
Yeah, where our first extended travel was in 2000. And then we traveled full time since 2009. But before that, we took a lot of 3 months to 6 month trip every year because we were freelance in the film industry, so we had a lot of time off in winters. So,
I'm sure you come up with a lot of different tips. What tips on saving on travel can you provide?
Well, I always say book locally. I know if you're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest with one of the big companies that's based here in North America, you're paying North America fees. You're paying for their office in the middle of the city and their staff and the middleman and then the local guides. And so you're paying for a lot. We've done all of our treks around the world with local guides. And when we get there, we're paying a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
We know that the money's going directly to the local people because they're the guys that own it. So you can save a lot of money. And at the same time, you can really help the local economy more than just going with a big tour company.
To save money on flights, definitely go with use some of the aggregators like Skyscanner or something that basically allow you to set alerts. Kayak does it as well, where you can set price alerts for different days of the week or different times of the month. and to see if the prices come up, and that they'll send you an email, and then you can book that flight. And also, recently, there's been like Scott's Cheap Flights is like a subscription service.
Sure.
But if you take more than, say, 2 trips a year, it's probably really worth it to sign up for something like Scott's Cheap Flights, in that they send you these air fares and different types of sales that go on, and they sort of have a whole team that's working to find those. They send them to you in your inbox, so you can purchase them right away, and you can often get lots of times get much cheaper flights that way than trying to figure out the algorithms of different flight search aggregators.
Have flexibility. If you can make your dates a little flexible, like say, well, I want to really fly on June 21st, but I'm willing to go 2 days before or 2 days after. Mm-hmm. These places will be able to find if it's cheaper. A lot of times it can make a difference between a day or two, depending. So if you can have flexibility in dates, that's worth it.
What are like 4 to 5 things you never travel without?
I never travel without Gold Bond. That's one thing. No matter where I'm going, we always have that with us. And people can figure out why, I'm sure.
Especially when you're doing a lot of adventure.
Don't leave home without it. We
always have a Belkin mini surge protector. That's a really great plug for, if you're in places that have outages a lot or power surges. We travel with our electronics, so we make sure that we plug our electronics into the power surger, the Belkin mini surge protector, rather than the wall.
We always travel with a, I call it a brick, but it's basically a power storage device. In that you can plug multiple plugs in. I mean, like no matter what phone you have nowadays or anything like that, the last thing you want, even camera, anything like that, you don't want to be without power nowadays. So it's portable power. You can have it in your pocket. We never go anywhere without it. Always plug the iPhones into it or whatever phone or camera we're using. It charges the GoPro if we need it. It's always there in a pinch, so we don't leave home without that either. And
a SteriPen to purify our water. So when we can drink a SteriPen is an ultraviolet water purification.
Okay.
It purifies water in 30 seconds. So we have our water bottle. We've used it from rivers, when we're trekking, and bottled water and not bottled water, tap water in places where you wouldn't think that you could drink the water. So it's a great one.
And I would also say one thing, a sarong. We had, for all the years that we've been traveling, in 20 years, I don't think we've ever gone anywhere without a sarong.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sarong for men and women. It works. Like in a lot of places, Dave uses it like as a beach towel, or just for bumming around the room
or to sleep on if you're sleeping in budget hotels or hostels. It acts as a blanket.
Yeah, and it's really great to have if you're traveling in the Middle East or Southeast Asia and you are wearing shorts and you want to go into a temple. You can tie a sarong on to have your legs, and use it as a shawl. So I've used it as a headscarf in Sudan. Yeah. So like a sarong, get a nice plain sarong, and I've just used it as a headscarf. Okay. So they're very versatile. So that's our 5. I think we said 5. I was counting on my fingers.
Maybe more. What advice can you give the average traveler to get out and explore, or get out there and travel further?
Well, I think for one thing, don't go into debt traveling. We never did. I think there's nothing worse than coming home from a great adventure and having a big mound of debt. So start planning early. So if you want to travel the world, start budgeting before you go. Cut out those expenses, start selling things off. Do you really need I always say a lot of people spend money on their latte.
The latte factor, yes.
So start planning ahead, and if you can't go to where you want to go, either save more or try somewhere different. Before Dave and I started travel blogging, we were doing a lot of adventures right in Ontario. We would go camping for cheap on the weekends and rock climbing in our backyard, and mountain biking and doing all things like that. That kind of built our skill level and got us out, and that's what we could afford until we could actually leave and travel for good and do all of that stuff. So
Yeah, and I would say try and push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, no matter where you go. Whether that be trying to speak the local language a little bit, learn a little bit of that when you go there. Maybe that scares you a little bit, or maybe it's jumping in a kayak somewhere. Whatever it may be, adventure is different for everybody. But if you work in a little adventure, a little pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, I find you come back with that, even more satisfaction from a trip than if you just went and sat by a pool and drank beer all the time. There's still nothing wrong with that, but say you take one day to go out and, visit the local village or whatever it will be, most of your stories coming back are going to be talking about what you did when you went and met that local village than sitting by the pool and drinking beer. So I think by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you learn a little bit about yourself, you learn a little bit about the country that you're in, and it makes the trip just that little bit more enjoyable.
And my final thing is, well, there's so many tips, but get off the cell phone. I see so many people, I've been in the most beautiful places on earth, and even with our job, Dave and I have to capture, but then we stop and take it in. And I see people just run, take their selfie, do their 500 different Instagram poses, and then never really stop and look at the beautiful scene and take in how lucky we are and how beautiful the world is. I'm hoping that, that might change soon, but get off the cell phone. You won't remember. Who cares how many likes you have or how many friends at home are jealous of you? You're not going to remember that when you get home.
No.
You're not going to go, ooh, so-and-so is so envious of me on my trip to the beach. You're going to go home and think about those moments, I hope, not the likes that you got on the phone.
So before I get to my final five, how can we find you out there in the World Wide Web?
You can find us on theplanetd.com. That's our website. And then on all of our social channels, you can find us The Planet D. So that's, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest,
I think that's
TikTok.
Well, we have a TikTok, but we're not really.
Yeah, we're not really TikTok age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the final five, favorite cuisine.
For me, it's Thai food.
Greek.
Oh yeah, I love Greek.
Yeah, I love Greek food. I was just reading about it today. Actually, I was like, it's just like mouth watering, and I thought about our time when we were in Greece and all the amazing food there, and I was like, oh. And plus, we're originally from Toronto, and Toronto has an amazing Greek town where you can get really great, authentic Greek food. And yeah, it's mouth-watering now. I think I might have to have that for dinner.
Yeah. Surprisingly, we have quite a few Greek restaurants in Ohio.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
It's good food.
Yeah, it is very. Favorite pizza?
Favorite pizza?
Either
like
items or your restaurant, your actual pizza place. Either one.
Okay. I'm really plain when it comes to pizza. I like really just a cheese, and I like hot pepper. Cheese.
I'll tell you what you are. You're a double cheese, hot pepper, and mushroom person.
That's me.
Because that's what we get on every pizza.
Yeah, I'm plain. I am so boring when it comes to pizza. Like when we go to Italy, I'm the one that just gets the what do you call it? The Polish pizza with
marinara. Like there's
just the marinara.
The green sauce and cheese.
Yeah, I'm boring.
And basil.
There you go. Okay, Dave.
My favorite pizza definitely would be double cheese, mushroom, and hot peppers.
Same as me. Oh, okay. Oh, you think it's fun.
I had you on the edge of your seat here, didn't I?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say pizza.
Yeah, Little Caesars.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, looking back, what do you wish you had known when you started out?
Ooh, when I first started out travel blogging, I wish that I planned. Let me see. I wish that I had planned more posts that were like when I first started. Okay, I wish I knew more about SEO to start planning my posts for Google search. That's what I wish. That took me a long time to spit that out, but that's what I wish.
When I look back, I wish I had taken a coding course. from the technical side of things, that I'd be able to do that myself and be much more knowledgeable on the building of a website, because I've gone through a lot of redesigns and all that kind of stuff. And, always working with different designers and coders, it's always difficult. It'd be much easier if I could do that myself.
So we've talked about a lot of different places, and I always ask, what are your top most memorable places you visited?
The most memorable place for me, I guess if you're just saying place, I would have to say, should I say place? No. Yeah, I'll say it's South Africa. Okay. I would say it's a place we've returned to quite a few times. It's really, after we cycled the continent of Africa, that's where we finished, was in Cape Town, South Africa. And I remember we spent time there afterwards, and I was completely floored by this country. And we've returned quite a few times since. And the country has so much to offer between wildlife, culture, cities, landscapes. I love it.
And I'm going to pick just like a place. I'm going to go with the first thing that came to my mind when you asked was Meteora, Greece. I think it's just one of the most amazing landscapes you've ever seen. It's these high cliffs, these like karst formations kind of, that go super high, that have monasteries on the tops of them. And monks used to have to climb up ladders hundreds of meters up to get into their monastery. And now you can go through them by hiking up them, or they even have bridges across. And I think that's the most memorable place I've ever seen in my life. Game of Thrones had the scene, I don't know if you ever watched it, but where Tyrion was getting thrown out of the clouds at the cloud castle.
Through the door,
through the door, through that I can't remember the heaven door or whatever. That was all modeled after Meteora, Greece. So that's I would say the most memorable scene I think I've ever seen. It's very unique.
So you've been in many places, but is there still some things on your bucket list?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been on our bucket list for a long time, which seems weird that we wouldn't have gotten to it. But going to see the gorillas in Rwanda is something that we've been wanting to do for years and years, and we just have not been able to do it. Yeah. So that's at the top of our bucket list for sure. Yep,
that's the one.
Any others?
I have nothing else to add. No, there's many places.
Lofton, Norway is a place that I would like to visit from a photography standpoint. I've never been there.
We've also never been to Patagonia, so we'd really love to do some hut-to-hut trekking in Patagonia. So every time, the more we travel, it seems the list gets longer.
Yeah, that's very true.
South Georgia Island and the Falkland Islands, they're part of, like, the Falkland Islands, and South Georgia is another part of Antarctica.
Papua New Guinea is another place where I would really like to go.
Now that you've opened up, we'll just keep on going now.
There's just so many places.
That's we love the travel bug, so we'll just do this the rest of our lives. I hope I'm able to.
I certainly don't think we'll ever run out of places to go to.
Yeah,
we've
still never been to Newfoundland in Canada.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
And Newfoundland has Torngat National Park, and it's just the scenery I see from it. I really want to go, so maybe that'll be one of our first trips we take, because we can drive to Newfoundland. So we'll take a road trip.
It's probably not embarrassing, because I bet a lot of people haven't even been out of their own province.
Yeah, but I look at it more from an embarrassing standpoint, in that we've been to all these countries, and then we never really we've been to every other province
in Canada,
except for Newfoundland.
Yeah. We've been saving Newfoundland for its own huge trip. The best for last.
Exactly.
Well, I really appreciate your time and coming on.
This was great.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I always have a blast chatting on podcasts.
Really appreciate Dave and Deb joining me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Next week, we have another special guest, Curb Free with CoreyLee.com, and how he overcomes his disability to travel the world. Join me next week. Listeners, if you like the podcast, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're feeling real generous, please give us a rating. We podcasters like to see 5 stars next to our name. Until next time, happy travels.